Mike, just a couple weeks now into the preseason workouts. What do you like, and what areas still concern you?
We've been practicing for about 5 days, and I like the pieces. I want to see how well we can come together in terms of two things. One, the million-dollar question is, how do you replace Cade?
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing we got to realize is nobody's going to replace Cade individually. We don't have anybody with that level of transcendent talent, but we do have a lot of really talented guys who can help us in other ways. The other thing is how much those guys buy into each other, because it's going to be much more by committee than it was, for instance, Cade going and getting 40 points in Norman last year. So understanding that we got to accept Cade's gone and other guys have to do it, but also we have to do it collectively.
I've never heard you bring this up, and I assume you don't, because there's no reason to talk of it. They know Cade's not here as well, so there's no reason to kind of sit on that. But I wonder when there'll be a game, I'm sure, somewhere down the line where Cade took over last year. Who will you be looking to do the same thing this year?
Well, I think just like before, it's going to be more by committee.
Okay.
I think that's one of the strengths of this team, is we have many players that are capable of being our go-to guy. It's very different than 2 years ago when we started off the season 7-0. Isaac Likely gets sick,
mm-hmm.
and we really struggled to find our way for about 2 months. Not that I want any injuries or illnesses to happen, but we're much more capable of dealing with those things now because of the quality of depth and the number of talented guys we have. So Avery Anderson obviously is top of mind. He's a guy we expect to be a big-time, consistent contributor. Bryce Thompson, as a newcomer, is somebody we know can really score. But also Bryce Williams has shown some flashes of being a guy who can really, really get going. But you also got guys like Caleb Boone, who's in his third year now with the program, and Matthew Alexander-Moncrief and Rondell Walker, who expect to both make big jumps in their sophomore year, understanding our system a little bit more.
It's a bad news, good news situation. You mentioned Caleb; he's dealing with a shoulder situation, but that has given your other big men more opportunities and minutes in practice.
Yeah, and Caleb's deal's minor, and obviously we're going to take as much precaution as we need to at this time of year. There's nothing major there, but there's also no need to try to rush him back to do something that could become an issue later on. So we feel good about where we are in the front court. We feel like we have a lot of quality players in that position. When you talk about Tyreek Smith, the transfer from Texas Tech, Musa Cisse, the transfer from Memphis, as well as having Vernon Kuma, and then obviously Matthew Alexander-Moncrief will play down there as an athletic rebounder as well. So we feel really, really good about where we are from a roster standpoint. I'm just excited to see these guys grow over the next couple of weeks as we get ready to head into a really competitive schedule.
You look at those new guys that you mentioned, and I think that's probably what a good many of our listeners want to hear. You kind of hone in on some of those guys. You already kind of went off the top, but Cisse, by far, we were just talking before you came on the air, whenever he does come off the bus, the team bus, if you're just watching the players come off the bus, he certainly is one to get your attention.
Oh, there's no doubt. There were a couple things that we really wanted to emphasize in our spring recruiting and how we were going to get better and build off of last year. And they were interior defensive presence. It was an area we really struggled in last year. And then perimeter shooting from the three-point line.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we addressed both of those when you talk about the interior physicality that Tyreek Smith brings. And then, like you said, Musa Cisse can almost block out the sun. He's got a 7'6" wingspan. He can really run. He's already changed the dynamics of our practices because guys know when he's around the paint, it's going to be hard to get all the way there and score at the rim. And then from a shooting standpoint, Bryce Thompson and Woody Newton will be guys that can address that area for us.
Take us inside some of these practices now. Intense, get after it kind of practices as usual, but guys who can run the floor. And I keep coming back to Cisse, but this guy looks like he could run forever.
he is a really, really good athlete. He's 6'11", 7'6" wingspan, and he's a well conditioned athlete. So the intensity and the speed and activity that goes on in the practice on a given day it makes you really excited. And so I'm looking forward to really being able to play the style that I've always wanted to, with the depth and size and athleticism that we have now. It's what we've tried to build to. See, last year was a little bit of a taste of it, and I'm looking forward to this year taking another step with this group, being able to execute more consistently as last year's team was.
You made a comment earlier, maybe a couple of weeks ago, I think, that it was fascinating. The 4 guys that you brought in all came from basically another program, all came from different styles of play. So you got guys who know how to play on this level, quote unquote, but not necessarily how to play under the Oklahoma State style. Are they coming around?
They are. I've been really pleased. We had them here for 8 weeks this summer, basically 4 weeks in June, 4 weeks in July. Musa was the only one who was not here during the summer. He was obviously a late recruit. We recruited him through the summer. He was going through the draft process, but all the other guys were here the whole time and really learning each other, learning our staff. We got a lot of new faces on our staff, and our staff learning these guys. And it was a really quick, seamless kind of transition for everybody, because I think the hunger and the desire to put Oklahoma State basketball back on the national stage permanently is something we all have the same desire to do. So we're really excited to have this group come together. Again, we got about 4 more weeks of practices before we get into the competition level of our season, and we're really, really excited to get to that work and continue to build each other.
It wasn't exactly by design, or perhaps it was, I don't know, but it seemed like early last year you brought Rondell, you brought Bryce Williams in off the bench, and they were defensive bulldogs. They went out there and shut people down coming off the bench defensively. Is that still the role you see those guys, or do you see them in a different light this year?
I don't know if I've decided that yet, but I'll say I know it's comforting to me to know that I have 2 guys who have the defensive mindset that those 2 have, that are capable of coming in, being disruptive, and not having an ego about coming off the bench, because eventually somebody's not going to have to be able to start. We got about 10 guys, and I feel really comfortable being able to play a lot of minutes. It's hard to divide evenly amongst that many quality players. So, the practices will be competitive, and they'll determine a lot of what you see on game day. And I'm excited to see these guys continue to make each other better. That competition will breed confidence, and that confidence will breed success on game day.
Yeah, I've heard you say that at least 100 times. You'll decide the lineup every day in practice, and it's got to be comforting, I would think, for a coaching staff in general, not to mention yourself, to know that every day you go out there, you got guys who can compete against one another, and there won't be a drop-off.
Yeah, I mean, that's it's old Billy Donovan saying depth can sometimes be overrated in games, because again, it's only 200 minutes, and to divide that up evenly is a really big, tall task. But it's underrated in practice. If you got a lot of guys who are capable of making your practices really competitive and helping each other get better, challenging our staff to stay on top of our game, it definitely breeds an opportunity for our team to become the best version of itself quicker. And so I'm really looking forward to the next 5 weeks, getting these guys to push each other, to challenge each other, and then as we get prepared for games, then to support one another, because we have the type of team where it could be a different guy every night that leads us in scoring, but we got to have everybody bought into the defensive task necessary to get a win.
Not counting the 4 new guys, let's just go back to the guys who played a year ago. Anybody so far, and I understand it's still young in terms of the preseason, but anybody made a jump that opened your eyes and the eyes of the coaches from last year to this year?
Rondell Walker has really, really stepped up his game over the summer and been really more consistent with just understanding what it takes to be successful at this level. The commitment to being in the gym outside of practice, to improving his body. He's up to about 190 pounds now from about 175 last year. And so he's a guy that I think physically will make a jump, but also from a production standpoint, you'll see a lot more opportunities for him to be a leader for our team.
One guy who fascinates me, still does, did last year, still does this year. What's Keelan Boone going to do, and how is he going to fit into this?
Yeah, well, Keelan, it's always about between his ears, man. Just the focus that he continue to have the focus necessary for his team, for himself, every day in practice, and not get complacent after a good game or a good couple of practices, and just building that consistency and being able to say, even, not getting down when things are going well, not getting too high or outside of himself when things are going well. And so once that happens, when the consistency clicks, then you'll see him probably on the court more because he has a lot of ability. He can rebound. He can really shoot it. He's got great length and can defend multiple positions. And that's something that we're going to need because that's an area where we have to improve in this perimeter shot making.
In the time left, and this starts Sunday. You go in Oklahoma City. John Marshall, you're going to practice down there. I think going over to Tulsa eventually and over to the Colvin Center. What's behind all that?
You know what? It's an opportunity for us to be out amongst our fans. We ask the people in both Tulsa and Oklahoma City to travel to Stillwater multiple times a year, and it's a great opportunity for us to show thanks, to go and have a practice and let them see how the sausage is made, if you will, on their home turf. They get a home game that day, if you will, and it's a great opportunity for our guys to be able to interact with them. And for them to see, again, just how this stuff happens as we prepare for the season.
Well, before I let you go, I saved it to last, and I'll have to admit, my team wasn't even in the playoffs. But I assume you watched your Yankees last night, huh?
You know what? I did to the degree I could. I was on the road, so I wasn't as dialed in as I would have liked to have been. However, in some ways, I'm glad that I didn't have to subject myself to the absolute collapse that we had over the last couple of weeks of the season. So, it was a disappointing end for sure. Still heartbroken, but I'm a Yankee fan through and through, and we'll be back.
I see. I like that right there, and I don't like that they lost. That's not what I'm saying. Since my team wasn't even around, so I'll hey, I appreciate the minutes we can. I want to promote that thing in Oklahoma City. John Marshall at what time? About 4 o'clock? Is that when you're going to hit the floor?
John Marshall, 3 p.m.
3 o'clock. Okay.
Sunday, 3 p.m. Sunday at John Marshall. It's open, completely open. So fans. Bring your families, enjoy Sunday afternoon watching the Cowboys. High school coaches come by. You can see kind of how we do things. Bring your team. Anybody can come and enjoy just an afternoon watching the Cowboys work.
Man, you'll see a pretty intense get-around, I'm sure, if you stand there and watch it the whole time because these guys really get after it every day in practice. Hey, appreciate your time, bud. I'll see you when you get back.
Thank you.
All right, but that is Mike Boynton, and I appreciate him jumping in here. Where are they now? Just a little bit of a rundown for you on the basketball scene.